Did you think 3 years of silence ending in one passionate night was the finale? That Ha-jun destroying the Beck cartel meant they were finally safe? You thought wrong. Welcome back. Here's the truth about victory. It never comes without a price. Ha-jun won the war, but winning created something far more dangerous, a vacuum. And in Seoul's underworld, vacuums don't stay empty. Something always fills the void. The only question is, who will it be? Wait, if this is your first time here, stop. You need to watch part 1 first to understand what's about to happen. The link is right there in the description. Go watch it, then come back. For those who've been following along, welcome back. Let's pick up where we left off. Seoul celebrated like the war was over. Champagne flowed in penthouses overlooking the Han River. Business leaders who'd stayed silent for months suddenly had opinions about the Beck cartel's fall. News anchors called it the end of an era of violence. Politicians promised a safer city. Everyone believed Ha-jun had won. Everyone was wrong. 3 weeks after bullets shattered their bedroom windows and Ha-jun eliminated the Beck cartel in a single bloody night, Lydia stood in the war room of their mansion. A place she'd never been allowed to enter before. Maps covered the walls. Surveillance feeds blinked across a dozen monitors. Men with tactical gear and hardened faces surrounded a table covered in intelligence reports, all of them waiting for Ha-jun to speak. But Ha-jun wasn't speaking. He was staring at a map of Seoul's districts with an expression Lydia had learned to recognize over the past 3 weeks. Barely controlled fury mixed with something that looked dangerously close to fear. Problem? Lydia asked, stepping closer. Every man in the room turned to look at her. Some with surprise. Others with thinly veiled skepticism. A few weeks ago, she would have shrunk under those stares, convinced she didn't belong in this world of violence and strategy. Now she met their eyes without flinching and waited for Ha-jun's answer. The Beck cartel controlled 30% of Seoul's underground economy, Ha-jun said, his voice tight. Gambling, protection, smuggling routes, political influence. When I destroyed them, that 30% didn't disappear. It became available. Available to who? Lydia moved to stand beside him at the table, ignoring the way his second-in-command, a scarred man named Jae-sung, shifted uncomfortably at her presence. Ha-jun's tattooed finger traced lines across the map. The Hwang Syndicate moved into 3 territories within 48 hours. Chinese triads took the port operations. The Yakuza claimed the gambling district. His jaw clenched. I eliminated 1 enemy and created 5. Lydia studied the map, seeing what Ha-jun saw, chaos spreading like cracks in ice. So you didn't win the war. You just changed who you're fighting. Exactly. Ha-jun looked at her, and something shifted in his expression, respect mixed with something deeper. Over the past 3 weeks, everything between them had changed. No more distance. No more walls. They shared a bed now, really shared it. And every morning Lydia woke up tangled in his arms like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. But intimacy came with a price. She knew things now. Dangerous things. The kind of information that made her a target not because she was Ha-jun's wife, but because she understood how his empire actually worked. The city thinks you're weaker, Jae-sung said, his voice carrying an edge of challenge as he looked at Lydia. They think destroying the Beck cartel cost too much. That you're vulnerable. Let them think that, Ha-jun replied, but his eyes never left the map. Underestimation is its own weapon. Lydia leaned forward, something catching her attention. These 3 territories the Hwang Syndicate claimed, they're not connected geographically. Why would they take scattered ground instead of consolidating? The room went silent. Jae-sung frowned at the map like he'd never considered the question. Ha-jun's head tilted slightly, his focus sharpening on the exact points Lydia had noticed. Unless they're not trying to hold territory, Lydia continued, her mind racing as patterns emerged. They're positioning. Look, each location gives them visual access to our supply routes without actually controlling them. They're watching, learning, waiting for something. Ha-jun's hand found hers beneath the table, squeezing once, a private gesture that spoke volumes. What do you think they're waiting for? Me. The word hung in the air like smoke. Jae-sung scoffed. With respect, Mrs. Kim, you're not important enough to. She's the only thing I care about more than power, Ha-jun interrupted, his voice cold enough to freeze blood. Which makes her the most valuable asset in this city. Every rival syndicate knows it now. They watched me burn the world for her 3 weeks ago. They saw what happens when someone threatens my wife. Lydia's pulse quickened, but she kept her voice steady. So they won't try to kill me. They'll try something else. Something worse, Ha-jun confirmed darkly. They'll try to turn you into a weapon against me. Blackmail. Leverage. Manipulation. The kind of warfare bullets can't stop. That's insane, Jae-sung muttered. No one could. Could what? Lydia cut him off, her tone sharp. Could manipulate the woman who married into this life without knowing what it really was? The one who spent 3 years isolated and desperate for connection? The perfect target for psychological warfare. She looked directly at Jae-sung. You're right. I'm not a soldier. I'm something far easier to exploit. Unless I learn faster than they can move, she added silently. Ha-jun pulled up a surveillance photo on one of the monitors. A woman, elegant, polished, probably in her 40s, standing outside a luxury hotel. This is Min Seo-yeon. She runs the Hwang Syndicate's intelligence operations. She's been asking about you, Lydia. Your background. Your routines. Where you go when you leave the mansion. Lydia studied the woman's face, memorizing every detail. What does she want? To befriend you. Ha-jun's voice carried a weight that made the words feel like a death sentence. To gain your trust. To position herself as someone who understands what it's like to be married to this life. And once she has your confidence, she'll use everything you tell her to destroy us both. Then we don't let that happen, Lydia said simply. Jae-sung laughed, a bitter, disbelieving sound. You think you can outplay Min Seo-yeon? She's been doing this for 20 years. She's turned wives against husbands, brothers against brothers. She's a professional manipulator and you're learning, Lydia finished, meeting his skepticism with steel. Which means I still have the element of surprise. She expects a naive wife who doesn't know what she's walking into. So we give her exactly that. Ha-jun's eyes darkened with understanding. You want to let her approach you. I want to beat her at her own game. The idea was insane. Ha-jun said as much the moment everyone else left the war room. He paced like a caged animal, his tattooed hands flexing with barely controlled tension. Absolutely not. You don't understand what you're suggesting. I understand perfectly. Lydia remained at the table, studying Min Seo-yeon's photo with cold calculation. She's going to make contact whether we want her to or not. Better to control when and how it happens. Control. Ha-jun stopped pacing, turned to face her. You think you can control someone who's spent 2 decades perfecting psychological manipulation? Lydia, she'll twist every word you say, every emotion you show, every vulnerability you accidentally reveal. Then I don't reveal any. It's not that simple. Nothing about this life is simple. Lydia stood, closing the distance between them. You said it yourself 3 weeks ago. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding. I'm your partner now, Ha-jun. So let me be one. His jaw clenched. For a long moment he just looked at her, conflict written across every sharp feature. Finally he exhaled. If we do this, and that's a massive if, you follow my rules. No exceptions. Tell me. Ha-jun pulled out his phone, brought up a detailed dossier. Min Seo-yeon doesn't make friends. She makes investments. Everything she does serves a purpose. So first rule, assume every interaction is strategic. Every question she asks is gathering intelligence. Every moment of apparent vulnerability from her is bait. Lydia nodded, absorbing the information like oxygen. Second rule, you tell me everything. Every conversation, every detail, every instinct that something feels off. I don't care how minor it seems. I need complete transparency or this doesn't work. Done. What else? Third rule, the moment I say we're done, we're done. No negotiation. No arguments. You walk away immediately. Ha-jun's hand cupped her face, his touch gentle despite the hardness in his voice. Because the second I think she's getting too close, too clever, too dangerous, I will burn every bridge to keep you safe, including this plan. Agreed. Lydia covered his hand with hers. But you have to trust me, Ha-jun. Actually trust me. Not protect me. Not shield me. Trust that I can handle this. Something shifted in his expression. 3 weeks ago, he would have said no. Would have locked her away and handled the threat himself. But intimacy had changed him too. Made him realize that protection wasn't the same as partnership. I trust you, he said finally. But if anything happens to you because I allowed this, nothing will happen. Lydia kissed him, quick and certain. Because I have something Min Seo-yeon doesn't expect. What's that? A husband who actually loves me enough to teach me how to survive. Min Seo-yeon made her move 4 days later. Lydia was at a charity luncheon, the kind of high society event she'd started attending to maintain appearances of normalcy. Wives of business executives pretended to care about orphan children while really networking for their husbands' companies. Everyone smiled. Nobody meant it. Perfect hunting ground for a woman like Min Seo-yeon. She approached during the silent auction, elegant in a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than a car. Her smile was warm, practiced, completely fake. "Lydia Kim, isn't it? I'm Seo-yeon Min. I've been hoping to meet you." Lydia turned, arranging her face into polite surprise rather than the recognition she actually felt. "Have we met before?" "Not formally. But I know your husband's work, shall we say." Min Seo-yeon's eyes sparkled with shared conspiracy. The business world in Seoul is smaller than people think, especially at the upper levels. Careful. Every word is a test. "Ha-jun keeps his work separate from me," Lydia replied, which was technically true 3 weeks ago. "I'm just here for the charity." "Of course." Min Seo-yeon gestured toward the auction items. "These events are exhausting, aren't they? Everyone performing their role. I always find it refreshing to meet someone genuine. There it is. The first hook. Making me feel special." "I try to be," Lydia said carefully, "though I'm not sure how genuine anyone can be at these things." Min Seo-yeon laughed, rich and warm and utterly calculated. "You're more perceptive than you look. Most wives in our position never question the performance. They just memorize their lines and smile on command. Our position, creating false intimacy through shared experience. Sometimes I wonder if that would be easier," Lydia admitted, feeding Min Seo-yeon exactly what she expected. Vulnerability disguised as honesty. "Oh, it would be much easier. Also much lonelier." Min Seo-yeon touched Lydia's arm. Brief, conspiratorial. "My husband is in import-export. Very successful. Very demanding. For years I thought my job was just to look beautiful at events like this and never ask questions about his work. Then I realized how isolated that made me. How invisible. Invisible. She knows. She's done her research." "That must have been difficult," Lydia said, her voice soft. "It was suffocating, until I decided to actually understand his world instead of pretending it didn't exist. Now we're partners. Real partners. It changed everything. The sales pitch. Wrapped in relatability. I don't know if Ha-jun would. Want you involved?" Min Seo-yeon finished, her smile knowing. "Men like our husbands think they're protecting us by keeping us separate. What they don't realize is that ignorance makes us targets. Knowledge makes us assets." Lydia let silence hang for a moment, as if considering something profound. "I never thought about it that way. Most women don't. Until it's too late." Min Seo-yeon pulled out her phone. "I'm having a small dinner party next week. Just a few women whose husbands operate in similar circles. Very casual. Very private. You should come. It might help you feel less alone in all this." The invitation. Exactly what Ha-jun predicted. Lydia hesitated. Not too eager, not too resistant. "I'd have to check with Ha-jun first." "Of course. But between us." Min Seo-yeon leaned closer, her voice dropping to conspiratorial intimacy. "Sometimes it's nice to have conversations our husbands don't control. Places where we can just be ourselves without performance." Hook set. Now comes the waiting. "I'll think about it," Lydia promised. Min Seo-yeon smiled like she'd already won. "I hope you do. I have a feeling we're going to be wonderful friends." Ha-jun didn't sleep that night. Lydia found him at 3 a.m. standing in his office, surveillance feeds playing across multiple screens. Min Seo-yeon's face frozen on one monitor. Profiles of 5 other women on the others. All confirmed associates. All married to men in rival organizations. All expertly trained in exactly this kind of operation. "You're going to wear a wire," he said without turning around. "Subcutaneous microphone. Undetectable even if they scan you. She'll expect that." Lydia moved to stand beside him. "The moment she suspects I'm feeding you information, this whole thing collapses." "I don't care. I'm not sending you in blind. You're not sending me anywhere. I'm choosing to go." She touched his arm, felt the tension coiled beneath his skin. "And a wire makes me predictable. Min Seo-yeon has done this before, Ha-jun. She knows every trick. We need to be smarter." He finally looked at her. "Define smarter." "I memorize faces. Relationships. Anything she accidentally reveals about her network. I come back, and we build a map of her entire operation from the inside out." Lydia pulled up the profiles on his screen. "These women, they're not just wives. They're intelligence assets. Min Seo-yun is running a network that operates in plain sight at charity events and dinner parties. Nobody suspects because nobody thinks wives matter. They're underestimating you. Exactly. Lydia's smile was sharp. So we let them keep doing it until it's too late. Ha-jun studied her for a long moment. When he'd first met Lydia 3 years ago, she'd been terrified and vulnerable. A woman who needed saving. Now she stood in his war room at 3 in the morning, strategizing psychological warfare like she'd been born into this world. Love had transformed her, but proximity to danger had weaponized her. If anything feels wrong, I leave immediately, Lydia finished. I know, but Ha-jun, you need to trust that I can read a room. That I spent 3 years watching you from a distance, learning how you think, how you strategize. I might not have your experience, but I have something they don't expect. What's that? I actually love the man I'm protecting. The dinner party was in Gangnam. Penthouse apartment. 38th floor. Security in the lobby that didn't search Lydia, but absolutely noted her arrival. Min Seo-yun greeted her at the door wearing a silk dress that screamed understated wealth. Lydia, I'm so glad you came. Come in, come in. Everyone's been dying to meet you. 5 other women. Ages ranging from late 20s to early 50s. All beautiful. All poised. All watching Lydia with predatory curiosity barely disguised as friendliness. Ladies, this is Lydia Kim. Her husband is Ha-jun Kim. I'm sure you've all heard the name. Heard it. Feared it. Been ordered to gather intelligence on it. A woman with sharp cheekbones and diamond earrings extended her hand. Jiwoo Park. My husband runs logistics operations. We should definitely talk. I have a feeling our husband's work overlaps more than they'd admit. Logistics. Code for smuggling routes. Another woman, younger, with carefully maintained innocence in her expression, smiled warmly. I'm Hannah. This is my first time at one of Seo-yun's dinners. I'm still learning how everything works. The plant. Someone to make Lydia feel comfortable opening up. They moved to the dining room. Expensive wine. Catered food that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Conversation that sounded casual, but absolutely wasn't. So how long have you and Ha-jun been married? Jiwoo asked, sipping wine. 3 years. And you're just now getting involved in his world. Min Seo-yun's tone was gentle, concerned. That must have been quite an adjustment. It was complicated, Lydia admitted, which was the understatement of the century. We had some things to work through. Distance, Min Seo-yun guessed. My husband and I went through something similar. He thought keeping me separate would keep me safe. Really, it just kept me vulnerable. Every woman at the table nodded like they'd experienced the same thing. Shared trauma as bonding mechanism. Textbook manipulation. Ha-jun did something similar, Lydia said carefully. For different reasons. The Beck cartel incident. Jiwoo leaned forward. Everyone heard about that. Must have been terrifying. Here it comes. The real questioning disguised as sympathy. It was, Lydia said honestly. But it also changed things between us. Made us realize we're stronger together than apart. That's beautiful, Hannah said, her eyes wide. My husband still won't tell me anything about his work. Says it's too dangerous for me to know. Mine too, another woman chimed in. Sometimes I feel like I'm living with a stranger. The chorus of agreement. Building false solidarity to encourage confession. Lydia took a slow sip of wine, pretending to consider her next words carefully. Ha-jun finally realized that protecting me from information just made me an easier target. Now he includes me in strategic decisions. Lets me see the bigger picture. Every woman's attention sharpened. Microscopically. But definitely. Really. Min Seo-yun's voice remained casual. That's quite progressive. Most men in your husband's position would never. Most men in his position don't love their wives the way he loves me, Lydia interrupted. That makes all the difference. The subtle redirection. Away from what Ha-jun tells her, toward why he tells her. Giving them nothing useful while seeming to open up. Min Seo-yun smiled. You're lucky. Truly. So many marriages in our world are just business arrangements. Finding actual love is rare. It is, Lydia agreed. Which is why I'd do anything to protect it. The words hung in the air. A line drawn. A boundary established. Wrapped in sentiment, but absolutely unmistakable. Jiwoo's eyes narrowed fractionally. Min Seo-yun's smile never wavered. But something shifted in the room's energy. They'd expected a lonely, isolated wife desperate for connection. Instead, they got someone who understood exactly what game was being played. Well, Min Seo-yeon said lightly. Let's eat before everything gets cold. We have all night to get to know each other better. All night to extract information. But Lydia was already 3 steps ahead, cataloging every micro-expression, every calculated word, building the intelligence map Ha-jun needed. Let them think she was the target. They'd realize too late she was the trap. Lydia left the dinner party at midnight with 7 new phone numbers and a dozen pieces of intelligence Min Seo-yeon never intended to give away. Ha-jun was waiting in the car. One look at his face told her he'd been controlling himself by sheer force of will for the past 4 hours. The moment the door closed, his hand found hers, gripping tight enough to hurt, like he needed physical confirmation she was actually there. Talk, he demanded. Ji-woo Park's husband runs the port smuggling operation, but she accidentally mentioned delays in shipments from Busan. That means they're using southern routes, not western ones like your intelligence suggested. Min Seo-yeon has connections to at least 3 other syndicates. She dropped names casually during conversation, but they were all people she shouldn't know if she's just a logistics wife. And Hannah isn't actually new to this. Her micro-expressions were too controlled. She's their newest recruitment, probably placed there to seem relatable. Ha-jun listened without interrupting, his jaw tight. They scanned you. I know they did. Twice. Once at the door, once in the bathroom. Found nothing because there was nothing to find. Lydia turned to face him fully. But here's what they didn't find. They didn't find a terrified wife who doesn't understand what she's involved in. That surprised them. Min Seo-yeon expected me to be desperate for friendship. Instead, I made it clear I'm there because I choose to be, not because I need saving. That changes their approach. Exactly. Now they'll pivot. Instead of befriending me, they'll try something else. Lydia pulled out her phone, showed him the group chat Min Seo-yeon had created. They'll invite me deeper into their circle. Give me more access. More trust. Because now I'm interesting to them. Ha-jun's thumb traced circles on her palm. A nervous gesture he'd developed over the past 3 weeks whenever stress threatened his control. Or they'll decide you're too dangerous and eliminate you entirely. They won't. Lydia's voice carried absolute certainty. Because eliminating me accomplishes nothing. I'm valuable alive, remember? The whole point is turning me into leverage against you. A dead wife is just motivation for revenge. A compromised wife is power. I don't like this. Ha-jun's voice dropped. You're too exposed. Too vulnerable. I'm exactly vulnerable enough. Lydia leaned closer, her eyes locked on his. They think they're playing me. They think every dinner party, every conversation, every carefully planted seed of doubt is working toward their goal. What they don't realize is that I'm mapping their entire network from the inside. By the time they figure out what's happening, we'll know every operation, every weakness, every connection they have. And then you do what you do best. Her smile was sharp. You destroy them completely. 3 days later, Min Seo-yeon sent a private message. Coffee. Just us. I'd like to talk without the group dynamic. Lydia showed Ha-jun the text. His immediate response was predictable. No, absolutely not. One-on-one is too dangerous. One-on-one is exactly what we need. Lydia was already typing a response. Group dynamics let her hide. Solo means she has to reveal more of herself. This is an opportunity, not a threat. Or it's a kidnapping setup. In a public coffee shop in Gangnam? With your security following me at a distance. Lydia sent the text accepting the invitation before Ha-jun could argue further. She's not that stupid. This is psychological warfare, remember? She needs me willing, not coerced. Ha-jun's control was fraying. She could see it in the tension around his eyes, the way his tattooed hands kept clenching and unclenching. 3 weeks of intimacy had stripped away his ability to compartmentalize. He couldn't think of her strategically anymore, only personally. Every risk she took felt like it was taking years off his life. I can't lose you, he said quietly. Not after finally having you. Lydia's heart twisted. You're not going to lose me. But Ha-jun, you need to let me do this. Not because you approve, but because you trust one know what I'm doing. I trust you. It's everyone else I want to kill. Save that energy. You're going to need it. The coffee shop was exactly what Lydia expected. Expensive, discreet, filled with business executives having quiet conversations they didn't want overheard. Min Seo-yeon was already there, sitting at a corner table with perfect sight lines to all exits. Professional. Always professional. Lydia, thank you for meeting me. Min Seo-yeon's smile was warmer now. More genuine. which meant more dangerous. I wanted to apologize if the dinner party felt overwhelming. Sometimes the group energy can be intense. It was fine, Lydia said, settling into the chair across from her. Actually helpful. I appreciated the perspective. I'm glad. Min Seo-yun stirred her coffee slowly, a studied gesture of casual comfort. I wanted to talk to you privately because I think we have more in common than I initially realized. Here it comes. The real play. Your husband is protective of you, Min Seo-yun continued. I saw how tense you were at dinner, how carefully you measured every word. That's not friendship. That's performance. He's controlling what you can say, isn't he? The accusation wrapped in concern. Textbook manipulation attempting to drive a wedge between spouses. Lydia took a sip of coffee, buying herself a moment. Ha-jun isn't controlling. He's cautious. There's a difference. Is there? Min Seo-yun leaned forward, her voice dropping to intimate honesty. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a woman who's finally being allowed to exist in her husband's world, but only on his terms. That's not partnership, Lydia. That's just a prettier version of the cage you were in before. The words were designed to land like daggers. To exploit the exact vulnerability Lydia had spent 3 years drowning in. The feeling of being invisible, controlled, erased. But Min Seo-yun made one critical miscalculation. She assumed that vulnerability still existed. You're right, Lydia said quietly. Ha-jun is protective. Sometimes overwhelmingly so. But here's what you don't understand. I'm not performing for him. I'm performing for you. Min Seo-yun's smile froze. Microscopic shift. But absolutely there. Every word at that dinner party was calculated. Lydia continued, her voice steady. Every vulnerability I showed you was bait. Because the thing is, Seo-yun, I spent 3 years watching my husband from a distance. Learning how he thinks. How he strategizes. How he plays chess with people's lives and wins every single time. Lydia, I know exactly what you're trying to do. Lydia leaned forward, matching Min Seo-yun's intimate posture. Turn me against Ha-jun. Make me doubt him. Feed me information that seems helpful, but actually compromises his operations. Classic intelligence work. And honestly, it might have worked a month ago. Min Seo-yun's expression remained neutral, but her eyes had gone cold. Calculating. Reassessing. But here's your problem, Lydia finished. You're trying to exploit a weakness that doesn't exist anymore. I'm not the lonely, isolated wife you researched. I'm Ha-jun's partner. And you just showed me exactly how you operate. Silence. Min Seo-yun set down her coffee cup with deliberate precision. Well, that was unexpected. I imagine it was. So what now? Min Seo-yun's voice carried grudging respect. You report back to your husband? He uses this information against us. Eventually. Lydia stood. But not yet. Because you're going to keep inviting me to things. Keep pretending you're trying to recruit me. And I'm going to keep accepting. Smiling. Playing my role. Why would I do that? Lydia's smile was pure steel. Because if you don't, I'll make sure every syndicate in Seoul knows you failed to compromise me. That Min Seo-yun, legendary manipulator, got outplayed by a mafia wife. How much credibility do you think you'll have after that? Ha-jun was livid. Not angry. Not frustrated. Livid in the way that made his soldiers check their exits and his enemies start writing final letters. Lydia had never seen him this furious. Not during the Bet cartel attack. Not during any crisis in the past 3 weeks. You threatened her. His voice was deadly quiet. They were alone in the war room. But Lydia could hear the restraint cracking with every word. You backed a professional intelligence operative into a corner and gave her every reason to kill you. I gave her every reason to keep me alive, Lydia corrected. There's a difference. Explain that difference before I lock you in this mansion and never let you leave again. Lydia faced him without flinching. Min Seo-yun's entire value comes from her ability to manipulate people. Her reputation is her currency. If word spreads that she spectacularly failed, to compromise someone as supposedly easy as me, she loses credibility. Her syndicate loses faith. Her network collapses. So she'll eliminate the evidence. Eliminate you. No. She'll try to salvage the operation. Lydia pulled up her phone, showed him the text that had arrived 20 minutes ago. Look, we should talk again. I think I misjudged you. Dinner this week? Ha-jun stared at the message. She's doubling down. Because I gave her an out. Keep me close, keep playing the game, and she can spin this as a long-term operation still in progress. But if she cuts contact now, everyone will know she failed immediately. Lydia set her phone down. I didn't threaten her into a corner. I gave her a pathway forward that serves both our interests. Both your interests. Hajun's laugh was bitter. Lydia, she's not your ally. The second she finds an opening, she'll take it. I know. But until then, we have access to her network. Her operations. Every conversation she has with me is information we can use. Lydia moved closer, her voice softening. You taught me that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones you keep close. The ones who think they still have a chance to win. Hajun's jaw worked. For a long moment he just looked at her, conflict written across every line of his face. Finally, he reached out, pulled her against his chest, his arms wrapping around her like he could physically shield her from every threat in soul. I can't think strategically about this, he admitted against her hair. Every instinct I have is screaming to pull you out. Lock you away. Protect you. I know. Lydia's hands fisted in his shirt. But you need to let me finish what we started. And if something goes wrong, then you burn everything to the ground. Just like you promised. Min Seoyeon's next move came 48 hours later. Not an invitation. Not a threat. An opportunity disguised as friendship. One of our associates is having issues with a business deal. She could use your perspective. Someone outside the usual circle. Interested? Lydia showed Hajun the message. His immediate reaction was suspicion. It's a test. They want to see if you'll actually help them. If you'll cross that line. Or they're setting me up to fail, Lydia countered. Give me information that seems helpful but actually sabotages their associate. Then they can blame me when things go wrong. Either way, it's a trap. Every move in this game is a trap. Lydia was already analyzing possibilities. The question is whether we can use it better than they can. Hajun pulled up intelligence files. Who's the associate? She didn't specify. That's part of the test, seeing if I'll commit before knowing details. Lydia thought for a moment. What if we flip this? I help their associate, but in a way that actually serves us. Give legitimate advice that happens to also expose their operation. That's playing with fire. Everything we're doing is playing with fire. Lydia met his eyes. But if we pull this off, we won't just have intelligence on Min Seoyeon's network. We'll have proof of their operations. Evidence. The kind of thing that destroys organizations. Hajun studied her face. 3 weeks ago, she'd been the woman he protected. Now she was the woman who strategized beside him, matching his tactical mind with instincts he hadn't taught her. Instincts she'd developed by surviving 3 years in a world that tried to make her invisible. You're terrifying, he said quietly. You know that. I learned from the best. The associate turned out to be Ji-woo Park, the woman from the dinner party whose husband ran port operations. Her problem was simple on the surface. A shipping container flagged by customs, holding up millions in merchandise. I don't know what to do, Ji-woo said when they met. Her stress seemed genuine. My husband is furious. If this shipment gets seized, we lose significant money and credibility. Lydia listened carefully. What's in the container? Electronics. High-end components. Ji-woo's eyes flicked away. Legally sourced, but the paperwork has some discrepancies. Discrepancies. Code for forged documents covering smuggled goods. Have you considered voluntary disclosure? Lydia suggested. Sometimes admitting minor errors proactively prevents major investigations. Ji-woo's expression shifted. That's actually brilliant. Show transparency before they dig deeper. Exactly. Fix the paperwork errors publicly. It makes everything else look legitimate by comparison. Lydia kept her voice helpful, almost naive. My husband's company deals with customs regularly. I've picked up a few things. What Lydia didn't say, voluntary disclosure would require submitting corrected documentation. Documentation that would have to list actual contents. Contents that would prove smuggling if Hajun's team intercepted and analyzed them before submission. Ji-woo left the meeting grateful. Min Seoyeon would hear that Lydia had been helpful, cooperative, exactly what they wanted. And in 3 days, when Ji-woo submitted those corrected documents, Hajun's people would have everything they needed. It's almost too easy, Lydia told Hajun that night. They're so focused on manipulating me, they're not seeing how much they're exposing. Or they're seeing exactly what they want us to see. Hajun's paranoia was well earned. Every victory could be set up for a larger trap. Then we stay careful. Stay smart. Lydia curled against him, feeling the tension in his body that never fully released anymore. But we don't stop. Not when we're this close. Hajun's arms tightened around her. I should never have let you into this world. You didn't let me. I chose it. Lydia tilted her head up, met his dark eyes. I chose you. Everything that comes with you. The danger. The strategy. The war. All of it. Even if it destroys you? I was already destroyed living without you. Her voice was fierce. At least this way I'm alive. Outside their window, Seoul glittered like a battlefield made of light. Somewhere in that city, Min Seo-yeon was planning her next move. Other syndicates were circling. Threats were multiplying. But for the first time in 3 years, Lydia wasn't afraid. She was ready. The trap sprang exactly when Hajun predicted it would. 2 weeks after Lydia helped Jiwoo Park, Min Seo-yeon invited her to a private meeting. No other women. No public location. A warehouse in Yongsan. Industrial, isolated. The kind of place where conversations happened that nobody wanted recorded. It's the endgame, Hajun said, staring at the address. She's done playing subtle. This is where she makes her real move. Or where we make ours. Lydia was already preparing, her mind cataloging every possible scenario. She thinks she's finally isolated me enough to flip me against you. That's her miscalculation. Lydia. Hajun caught her wrist, turned her to face him. Once you walk into that warehouse, I can't protect you. My men can't follow inside without blowing your cover. You'll be alone with someone who's killed more people than you can imagine. I won't be alone. Lydia touched his face, feeling the sharp line of his jaw beneath her palm. I'll have everything you've taught me. Everything we've built together. That's stronger than any backup you could send. Hajun closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had shifted. Resignation mixed with fierce pride. If she threatens you, I know what to do. If she tries to hurt you, you'll know. And you'll come. Lydia kissed him, soft and certain. Because that's what we do now. We protect each other. The warehouse was exactly as ominous as expected. Concrete floors. Dim lighting. Min Seo-yeon waiting in the center like a spider in her web, flanked by 2 men whose body language screamed professional violence. Lydia. Thank you for coming. Min Seo-yeon's smile was colder now. Less pretense. I think it's time we had an honest conversation. I agree. Lydia stopped just inside the entrance, maintaining distance. Let's be honest. You've been playing me. Min Seo-yeon's voice carried grudging admiration. Very well, I might add. Better than I expected. You fed me just enough real information to seem cooperative while actually gathering intelligence on my entire network. Yes. Your husband trained you well. My husband loves me. That's what trained me. Lydia kept her voice steady. You assumed love was weakness. That caring about someone made you vulnerable. You based your entire strategy on that assumption. Min Seo-yeon laughed, sharp and bitter. And you're telling me it doesn't? That loving Hajun doesn't make you the perfect leverage. It makes me dangerous. Lydia took a step forward. Because I'm not protecting myself anymore. I'm protecting us. That's a very different motivation than you calculated for. Touching sentiment. Min Seo-yeon gestured to her guards. But ultimately meaningless. You walked into this warehouse alone. No backup. No escape route. You're mine now, Lydia. And through you, I'll destroy your husband completely. No. Lydia's voice cut through the warehouse like a blade. Through me, you've destroyed yourself. Min Seo-yeon's expression flickered. Explain. Every conversation we had, I was recording. Not electronically. You'd catch that. But mentally. Every name you dropped. Every connection you revealed. Every operational detail you thought was too subtle to matter. Lydia pulled out her phone. And 20 minutes ago, I sent everything to Hajun. Your network. Your associates. Your entire operation. It's all documented. Verified. Ready to be distributed to every rival syndicate in Seoul. You're bluffing. Am I? Lydia held up her phone, showed the sent message timestamp. You're good at manipulation, Seo-yeon. But you made one critical error. You thought I was the target. Really, I was the weapon. Min Seo-yeon's face went cold. Then you just signed your death warrant. Maybe. But I also signed yours. Lydia's smile was pure steel. Because if anything happens to me, that information goes public immediately. Every syndicate you've crossed, every deal you've sabotaged, every enemy you've made. They'll all know exactly where to find you and everyone you love. Silence. Tense and crackling. Mutually assured destruction. Min Seo-yeon said finally. Is that your play? No. My play is offering you a choice. Lydia's voice softened slightly. Walk away. Dismantle your operation quietly. Disappear. And we pretend this never happened. Or keep pushing, and Ha-jun will show you exactly why everyone in Seoul fears his name. You think your husband scares me? I think you're smart enough to know what he's capable of when someone threatens his wife. Lydia took another step forward. 3 weeks ago, he destroyed the Bet cartel in a single night because they came after me. What do you think he'll do to someone who actually succeeded in trapping me? Min Seo-yeon's jaw tightened. Behind her, the guards shifted uncomfortably. Everyone in Seoul's underworld had heard what happened to the Bet cartel. The brutality, the completeness of their annihilation. This isn't over, Min Seo-yeon said quietly. Yes, it is. Lydia's voice carried absolute finality. You just haven't accepted it yet. She turned and walked toward the exit, every muscle screaming at her to run, but forcing herself to move slowly, calmly, like she had all the control in the world. Behind her, Min Seo-yeon said nothing. The warehouse door closed. Lydia stepped into Seoul's night air. 3 seconds later, Ha-jun's car pulled up, and she collapsed into the seat beside him, adrenaline finally crashing through her system. It's done, she whispered. Ha-jun pulled her against him, his hands shaking as they tangled in her hair. You're insane. Brilliant and insane. I learned from you. No. Ha-jun tilted her face up, his eyes fierce with emotion. I taught you tactics. You taught yourself courage. 3 days later, Min Seo-yeon's operation quietly dissolved. Associates disappeared. Connections severed. The woman herself vanished from Seoul entirely, smart enough to recognize a war she couldn't win. In their bedroom, the same golden room that had once felt like a prison, Lydia finally burned the last of her fear. Ha-jun held her like she was the only real thing in a world of shadows. And for the first time since their marriage began, neither of them was afraid of what morning would bring. We survived, Lydia whispered against his chest. We did more than survive. Ha-jun's voice was rough with emotion. We won. Outside, Seoul sparkled with the lights of a city that would never fully understand what happened in its shadows. But Lydia understood. She'd walked into hell armed with nothing but love and intelligence, and she'd walked back out victorious. Not as a protected wife. As a queen.